Imagine staring down 70,000 of the world's most feared soldiers, armed with cannons that once brought down the walls of Constantinople. Now imagine standing in their way with nothing but farm tools and faith. This isn't a legend. This is the real story of how a ragtag army of peasants, priests, and mercenaries stood up to an empire and won. This is the impossible victory at Belgrade, 1456. And it may just be the greatest military upset in history. In the summer of 1456, Sultan Mehmed II, the man who conquered the unconquerable city of Constantinople just 3 years earlier, turned his eyes toward the west. And standing in his path was one critical fortress, Belgrade, a Christian stronghold at the crossroads of Europe, a gate he had to open if his dream of a new Roman Empire was to come true. So he brought everything: tens of thousands of elite troops, 300 heavy cannons, and a terrifying reputation. From villages to royal courts, Europe held its breath. No one thought Belgrade could survive. While Mehmed marched with the full force of an empire, Hungary was in chaos. The nobles bickered, the king hesitated, and no one would pay for an army. But from the shadows, two unlikely heroes rose. John Hunyadi, a seasoned warlord who had spent decades fighting the Ottomans, and John of Capistrano, a 70-year-old priest sent to preach sermons, who instead started preaching war. Together, they would raise an army the old-fashioned way, not with money, but with fire. Capistrano lit a spiritual wildfire. He preached in Latin. Most people couldn't even understand him, but they didn't need to. Farmers grabbed scythes. Blacksmiths picked up hammers. Students, monks, old men, they came in droves. Hunyadi, meanwhile, scraped together every coin he had to fund a small corps of real soldiers, around 10,000 professionals. But his growing army was less army, more angry mob. He knew it wouldn't be enough. They were outnumbered 2-1, and Ottoman cannons were already within range. On July 4th, 1456, the sky above Belgrade roared. Massive cannonballs smashed into the city's medieval walls. Dust filled the air. The ground shook, and inside the fortress, fear spread like wildfire. But Hunyadi knew time was running out. If he didn't break the naval blockade on the Danube, Belgrade would fall from starvation before the cannons finished the job. So on July 14th, he launched a desperate river attack. With small makeshift boats, he crashed into the Ottoman fleet. The battle raged for 5 hours, and miraculously, he won. The river was open. Reinforcements poured in, but the walls, they were still crumbling. July 21st, the walls were breached. Under cover of darkness, the elite janissaries stormed in. The lower city turned into a slaughterhouse. It looked like the end. Then, something strange happened. Hunyadi ordered his men to burn the city's narrow streets. Fires exploded between buildings, cutting off the janissaries from the rest of the Ottoman army. And then, the defenders fought back, with fire, with fury, with everything they had left. One Hungarian soldier, legend says, tackled the Ottoman flag-bearer off a tower, dying in the fall, but keeping the city's spirit alive. And it worked. The Ottomans retreated. For now. The next morning, Hunyadi ordered his men to stay put and rebuild the walls. But not everyone listened. Capistrano's crusaders, the farmers and students with farm tools, started sneaking out, harassing the enemy, annoying the cavalry, until they charged. Capistrano, holding a crucifix high, ran to the front and yelled, "The Lord who made the beginning will take care of the end." It was suicide, or so it seemed, because in that moment, something shifted. Hunyadi saw the panic in the Ottoman ranks. He seized the moment and unleashed his cavalry. A wave of trained knights slammed into the Ottoman flank, cutting down everything in their path. They reached the siege cannons and turned them back on the Ottomans. The mighty army of Mehmed II crumbled into chaos. Even the Sultan himself was wounded. And that night, the Ottomans retreated in defeat. Belgrade had survived. Europe had been saved. But the price was steep. Weeks later, John Hunyadi died from plague. Months after that, Capistrano followed. They never saw the legacy they left behind. Their victory halted the Ottoman advance for 70 years. It changed the course of Europe. And every day at noon, when church bells ring across Catholic countries, it's not just tradition. It's a memory, a signal, a salute to the ordinary people who refuse to back down. History isn't always shaped by kings or emperors. Sometimes, it's shaped by a priest with a crucifix, a general with a plan, and a mob of farmers with courage. This was the Siege of Belgrade. And this was the moment when faith, fire, and fury stopped an empire. If you want more epic stories that history almost forgot, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Which forgotten battle do you want to see next?